Daily Devotion with Pastor Balla for May 9th, 2021, from Luke chapter 20, Who is Jesus? Previously we heard that Jesus had cleaned out the temple, not of dust and dirt, but of people who were buying and selling, for Jesus wanted the temple to be a house of prayer, not a business place. Of course, the religious leaders were not happy with Jesus, and so now they confront Jesus with his actions. From Luke chapter 20, verse 1. One day, as Jesus was teaching the people in the temple and preaching the gospel, the chief priests and the scribes with the elders came up and said to him, "Tell us, by what authority you do these things, or who it is that gave you this authority?" Who gave Jesus the authority to preach? Who gave Jesus the authority to do miracles? Who gave Jesus the authority to drive out those who bought and sold in the temple? The chief priests wanted to know, which meant that the chief priests had no idea. We know the answer. Jesus is the Son of God. So the authority of Jesus comes from God the Father who sent Jesus. The miracles should be obvious proof. Who else can raise the dead? Who else can heal the sick? But the chief priests and the religious leaders did not want to believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that Jesus is the Messiah. So Jesus asks them a question to answer their question. Verse 3, Jesus answered them, "I also will ask you a question. Now tell me, was the baptism of John from heaven or from man?" Jesus here is using this question to have the chief priests and the religious leaders kind of condemn themselves with their own thinking because they did not believe Jesus to be the Son of God. Verse 5, and they discussed it with one another, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say, 'Why did you not believe him?' But if we say from man, all the people will stone us to death, for they are convinced that John was a prophet." So they answered that they did not know where it came from. So who was John the Baptist? I like what Jesus said of John in Matthew chapter 11, verse 9. "What then did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is he of whom it is written, 'Behold, I send my messenger before your face, who will prepare your way before you.'" Jesus, in speaking about John the Baptist, quotes from Malachi chapter 3, verse 1, that this messenger would come before the Messiah. So to answer the questions, the authority of John the Baptist comes from God in heaven. So also that means the authority of Jesus comes from God in heaven, because Jesus is the Messiah. However, Jesus isn't quite ready for that to be publicly known yet. Even though Jesus is going to be crucified in just a few days, Jesus still needs to continue to teach a little bit more and to celebrate the Passover with the disciples before he is arrested and then crucified. So the response of Jesus to their initial question would be, verse 8, "And Jesus said to them, 'Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things.'" For us as Christians, there is a wonderful comfort in all of this, in this statement of Jesus. Even with the plans of the chief priests to have Jesus put to death, it will only occur because of the will and the timing of God the Father. For us, when we see bad events of life surround us, we also need to realize who is in charge of this world. For this is all part of God's plan, because God is ultimately in control. So we know how this is going to end. It's going to end with sins forgiven and believers being with God for eternity. God's peace and many blessings be with you, and thank you for listening. And please take an opportunity to share this message with others. If you have enjoyed these daily devotions, please consider making a donation to Peace Lutheran Church, 24024 West Main Street, Plainfield, Illinois, 60544. Thank you again for listening.